The year is 1995. A biting wind whips through the concrete canyons of Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. Streetlights, some flickering, cast long, distorted shadows on graffiti-scarred brick. The air is thick with the scent of stale exhaust, cheap takeout, and something metallic, almost industrial, that speaks of decay. This isn't the romanticized New York of postcards. This is the belly of the beast, where the American dream has curdled into a nightmare for far too many. The crack epidemic, an insidious plague, has burrowed deep into the borough's soul, leaving behind a landscape of desperation. Empty lots yawn like missing teeth, dotted with forgotten needles and shattered glass. Brownstones, once proud, now bear the scars of neglect, their windows boarded up or gazing out with vacant stares. The constant hum of distant sirens is the unofficial soundtrack, a low, mournful wail that promises swift judgment or delivers too late aid. Figures shrouded in oversized coats huddle in the doorways of bodegas, their faces obscured, their eyes wary. Every transaction, every glance, every hurried step carries the weight of a silent calculation. Who to trust, where to go, how to survive another night. This isn't just a neighborhood, it's a battleground where the currency is fear and the stakes are life itself. Survival here is a grim art form, practiced in the shadows, honed by necessity. Ambition isn't a luxury, it's a weapon, a shield, a promise whispered in the dark. A single bare bulb hangs precariously from the ceiling, casting a harsh glow on a worn table covered in papers and an old cassette player. The rhythmic thud of a homemade beat emanates from the speakers, a raw, insistent pulse. And there, amidst the pervasive grit, sits Sean Carter. Later, the world would know him as Jay-Z. Young, sharp-eyed, a quiet intensity burning behind his gaze. He's not a product of this world. He's an active participant, a student of its brutal economics. His hands move with a practiced efficiency, counting stacks of bills, then turning to scratch out lyrics on a notepad, each line a testament to the streets outside, a narrative forged in the crucible of ambition and desperation. He moves with a focused, almost regal composure. A hustler, yes, but one with the mind of a chess player, always several moves ahead, meticulously crafting not just a come-up, but an empire. You are watching Bricktales, and it's brought to you by Hard Knock Digital. We're the production studio committed to curating and distributing these vital, in-depth stories about the urban experience. We invest the time and resources to keep this content high quality because we believe these stories deserve it. If you want to ensure we keep bringing you series like this, your support is essential. Join the movement by going to www.patreon.com/hardknockdigital today. With your subscription, you become a member of our community, as well as gain access to exclusive premium content available nowhere else. Now, let's get back to Bricktales. Before he became Jay-Z, the billionaire, the mogul, the man who made hip-hop corporate, he was Sean Corey Carter. Born on December 4th, 1969, in the heart of Brooklyn, New York, his story began in a place that many dream of escaping, the Marcy Houses, a public housing complex in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Marcy wasn't just a neighborhood, it was a pressure cooker, a maze of red brick buildings where every hallway carried echoes of survival. Poverty wasn't a phase there, it was the rule. The walls themselves seemed to test people, asking who could handle the grind and who would fall under it. And for young Sean, that test began early. His mother, Gloria Carter, worked hard to keep the family together, while his father, Adnis Reeves, was mostly absent.
Like, when my pops died, I didn't cry. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it starts. Pop died, didn't cry, didn't know him that well. You know what I'm saying? But it just came from me being real about those feelings.
Adness left when Jay was around 11, a wound that never really healed, and one Jay would later turn into art. In his 2017 album 444, he would rap about the pain of that absence, admitting that it shaped how he saw love, loyalty, and trust. Mama had 4 kids, but she's a survivor, he once said, and that wasn't just a lyric, it was his truth. Growing up in Marcy meant learning fast. Outside, there were dealers on every corner, sirens cutting through the night, and constant whispers of who got locked up or shot. Inside, there was a mother trying to raise her children with dignity in a place that stripped it away daily. Jay-Z would later describe it best. We were kids without fathers, so we found our fathers on the streets. In the 1970s and early 80s, New York City was in chaos. Crime rates soared. The crack epidemic hit neighborhoods like Marcy with brutal force. For many young boys, opportunity looked like a myth. The classroom felt distant, but the street was right outside your window, alive, dangerous, and profitable. Sean wasn't immune to it. Like many around him, he began hustling young, not out of greed, but necessity. Music, though, was the one escape that didn't come with handcuffs. In the courtyards and corners of Brooklyn, hip-hop was being born. The city was alive with rhythm. DJ Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, Run DMC, and local DJs, spinning beats on borrowed turntables. Every block party felt like a revolution, and young Sean Carter was paying attention. He started rhyming, at first just imitating the local heroes, then building his own style. Friends noticed he had a gift. His flow was sharp, his memory photographic. He didn't need to write rhymes down. He could hear a beat once and create verses in his head, line after line, smooth and calculated. Music gave him purpose, but the streets demanded loyalty. So, for a long time, he balanced both, hustling by day, rapping by night. That duality defined him. He wasn't born into opportunity. He carved it out with equal parts talent and toughness. He attended Eli Whitney High School in Brooklyn, though it eventually closed, and later crossed paths with the notorious B.I.G. and Busta Rhymes during his school years. Brooklyn's hip-hop energy was exploding, and Jay was right there, absorbing every ounce of it. But behind the bravado, there was a kid dealing with the pain of abandonment. His father's absence left a hole he didn't know how to fill. He said later, "I had so much anger that I turned into this cold person." That coldness, that armor, would later become part of his stage persona, calm, unbothered, untouchable. The kid from Marcy learned that emotion could be dangerous, so he hid it until the music gave him a way to translate it into poetry. Jay's mother bought him a boombox for his birthday, a small gesture that changed his life. He'd sit for hours, recording beats off the radio, rhyming over them, studying how his voice could ride the rhythm. It wasn't about fame yet, it was about control. In a world that offered none, music was something he could own. Marcy wasn't the kind of place where dreams grew easily, but Sean Carter began dreaming anyway, not of escaping poverty, but of mastering it. He studied the hustlers, not just the street hustlers, but the ones who made money move quietly. He started to see business in everything: how to flip a product, how to read demand, how to keep a brand strong. He didn't know it yet, but he was building the blueprint, one that would later define not just his career, but the entire way hip-hop approached success. The streets taught him that every transaction is about leverage, and every conversation is a negotiation. The music taught him that words can turn pain into profit if you're honest enough to tell your story. And life taught him that nobody's coming to save you. You build your own ladder, or you stay on the ground. That's what Marcy gave him: resilience, calculation, and hunger. It was the school where he learned the difference between talent and grind. By the time he was in his late teens, he already had the instincts of a CEO. He just hadn't found the right product yet. That product would be his voice. The street code, survival, and hustle. The streets of Brooklyn weren't just a backdrop for Jay-Z's youth. They were his first classroom. By his teenage years, Sean Carter wasn't just navigating the chaos of the Marcy projects, he was surviving it. Poverty didn't give him many choices, and opportunity wasn't knocking on his door. So, like many young men in his neighborhood, he found himself drawn into the world that surrounded him, the crack cocaine trade. In the 1980s, Brooklyn was in the grip of the crack epidemic. For many, it was a curse. For some, it was survival. Jay-Z once said in an interview, "We were living in a war zone. You could get killed for nothing." That wasn't an exaggeration. Every block had its hierarchy, its rules, its dangers. You either learned fast or you disappeared. But in that world, Jay wasn't just another hustler. He was a student of the game. He studied how people moved, the deals, the deception, the loyalty, and the betrayal. He learned how to negotiate under pressure, how to read people, and how to manage risk. These weren't just street lessons, they were early business lessons, disguised in danger. He learned that success in the hustle required more than muscle. It required strategy, patience, and discipline. You had to know when to move, when to wait, and when to disappear. Every decision could mean profit or prison, survival or death. Jay honed these instincts, the ability to calculate risk and control his emotions, traits that would later define his rise as a businessman. In his lyrics, Jay would often revisit those days, not as glorification, but as reflection. Songs like Dead Presidents, Devils, and Can't Knock the Hustle capture that inner duality, the fight between ambition and morality, survival and self-destruction. He knew the streets weren't a destination, just a test. He once rapped, "We were kids without fathers, so we found our fathers on wax and in the streets." The streets for him became both mentor and mirror. But the hustle came with heavy costs. Jay lost friends to violence, and more than once, he found himself staring down the barrel of a gun. In one rare interview, he recalled being shot at 3 times and narrowly escaping. "That was when I realized," he said, "you can't live like this forever." Those near-death moments planted a seed, the idea that he needed to evolve, to find a way out before the streets swallowed him whole. Still, there's no denying that the street code became the foundation of his empire. Every business move he made later in life echoed the same principles he learned on the corners of Marcy Avenue. Know your value, move strategically, and never show all your cards. He learned that power doesn't come from showing off. It comes from staying quiet and letting your work speak for itself. Jay once compared the crack game to corporate life. "The streets taught me everything I needed to know about business, supply and demand, knowing your customer, and staying liquid."
So you and I have talked about this before, but what do you think you'd be doing if you hadn't gotten to the rap game?
Some form, like I just say I see myself as an entrepreneur, period. It's just not just something that happened. If it wasn't this, it was something else, you know what I mean? I was working on building up a whole store. We had a store where it'd be like, the game room and all kind of, you know what I mean, out barber shops and all kind of stores. So I was definitely an entrepreneur. I didn't want to have a boss.
He learned how to handle competition, how to build networks, and how to reinvest. While most hustlers spent fast, Jay saved, studied, and strategized. That mindset, born from scarcity, would later help him flip deals worth hundreds of millions. But make no mistake, it wasn't glamour. The streets took a toll on him emotionally. The constant threat of raids, betrayal, and death weighed on him. He described that period as living with paranoia as your roommate. Yet somehow, through it all, music remained his outlet. Late at night, when the streets quieted down, he'd grab a notebook and start writing rhymes by candlelight. His verses weren't fantasies, they were diaries. Snapshots of a young man walking a tightrope between crime and creativity. As the years went on, Jay began to see that the same determination that kept him alive in the streets could also take him out of them. He wasn't content being a hustler forever. Deep down, he wanted more. Not just money, but meaning. He once said, "You can't be forever young in the game. You either evolve or dissolve." And that's exactly what he did. The lessons he learned in the shadows, negotiation, confidence, adaptability, became the very weapons that would later make him unstoppable in the boardroom. The street code that once kept him alive would soon become the foundation of a billion-dollar empire. From Marcy's Corners to Madison Avenue, Jay-Z never forgot where he came from, but he also knew he couldn't stay there. The streets taught him the art of the hustle, but his ambition taught him how to transcend it. Because for Jay-Z, the real hustle wasn't about drugs or dollars, it was about transformation. Finding his voice, the birth of a rapper. Before the world knew him as Jay-Z, he was just Sean, a kid trying to turn pain into poetry. The streets had sharpened his instincts, but it was music that gave him purpose. Amid the chaos of Brooklyn, the sound of hip-hop pulsed through every block party and corner radio. It wasn't just entertainment, it was expression, survival through rhythm and rhyme. In the mid-1980s, rap was still a growing art form. The legends were local heroes. MC Shan, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, and young Sean Carter was watching closely. He started small, freestyling in the hallways of Marcy projects, drumming beats on lunch tables, battling kids from other blocks. His rhymes were raw, vivid, and fast, a reflection of everything he saw around him. He didn't write his lyrics down. Even then, he was known for keeping verses in his head, memorizing entire songs without a notebook. That mental discipline came from the streets. You couldn't leave evidence lying around. But it also became his creative signature. Jay's memory was his studio long before he had one.
I stopped writing rhymes, like writing them for. I didn't write the whole, none of my albums. Actually, I wrote the second verse to Can I Live in the studio, and everything else was just done. Like it just done straight off memory.
Then came a turning point. Jazzo, an older rapper from Brooklyn who had already started making waves in the industry. Jazz saw potential in the young Carter, recognizing both hunger and discipline. He took Jay under his wing, teaching him how to record, how to structure songs, and how to navigate a music business that was notoriously hard to enter without connections. In 1989, their partnership led to Jay's first real taste of the industry, the single Hawaiian Sophie. Released under EMI Records, the track featured Jazzo as the lead artist and a young Jay-Z as his protege. The video, complete with bright suits and island flair, looked nothing like the Brooklyn streets Jay came from. But for him, it was validation. His name was on vinyl. His dream was real. The nickname Jay-Z was born around that time, evolving from his childhood nickname Jazzy, a nod both to his mentor and to the Jay-Z subway lines that ran near Marcy. The name stuck, and it carried both his origins and his aspirations. But after that brief moment of spotlight, things stalled. Jazzo's career didn't explode the way many had expected, and Jay-Z found himself without a label, without momentum. The record companies weren't calling. His demos were passed around, but rarely taken seriously. He wasn't flashy, didn't have industry backing, and his Brooklyn realism wasn't yet what the mainstream wanted. The early 90s were brutal for unsigned rappers. Labels were looking for radio-friendly acts, not underground storytellers. Jay found himself back in the streets, not by choice, but by necessity. He hustled to survive, sold tapes hand to hand, and kept performing wherever he could. Those years were humbling, but also formative. Each rejection built his resilience. Each closed door pushed him to think differently. He saw that the traditional route, waiting for a label to discover him, wasn't gonna work. If the industry didn't want him, he'd find another way in. He started recording more seriously, making demo tapes that captured his growing maturity. His flow was evolving, more precise, more confident, and deeply layered. You could already hear flashes of the brilliance that would define his later albums. Clever wordplay, subtle storytelling, and a sharp sense of rhythm that made his verses sound effortless. And even though he didn't have mainstream exposure yet, his name started circulating on the streets. Tapes were being passed around. DJs in New York were whispering about this kid from Brooklyn who could go bar for bar with anyone. In local battles, Jay's calm confidence set him apart. He wasn't the loudest, he was the sharpest. His punchlines landed clean, his timing perfect. Jazzo remained in touch, but Jay was beginning to step out of his shadow. The mentor had given him the foundation, but now it was time to build something of his own. He had seen how the music industry worked and how it failed artists like him. That observation planted a dangerous, revolutionary idea. What if he didn't need a label at all? That seed, born from rejection and frustration, would one day grow into Rocafella Records, a company that changed hip-hop forever. But at this point, Jay-Z was still an outsider, a rapper with undeniable talent but no platform. He had a voice, but the world wasn't listening yet. What kept him going was a mix of pride and patience, the belief that his story was too powerful to stay buried. When he looked at the skyline from his Brooklyn rooftop, he wasn't just dreaming of fame, he was dreaming of control. He didn't just want to make it in the music business, he wanted to own it. And so, while others chased record deals, Jay-Z was busy designing his own path, one rhyme, one hustle, one vision at a time. The independence move, Rocafella Records.
Because, just to make something from nothing, like you're just sitting there, you don't have anything, then here comes the beat. Then a few hours later, here's the lyrics. A few hours later, here's the hook. Now you have a song from nothing.
By the mid-1990s, Sean Carter was standing at a crossroads. He'd mastered the art of survival, sharpened his lyrical skill, and built a name at the underground. But the doors of the mainstream music industry stayed locked. Every major label passed on him. They didn't see a star. They saw a street hustler with a Brooklyn accent and no radio single. But Jay-Z was done asking for permission. He realized something powerful. If no one would open the door, he'd build his own. In 1995, alongside two equally hungry visionaries, Damon Dash and Kareem "Biggs" Burke, Jay-Z founded Rocafella Records. It wasn't just a record label, it was a rebellion. Damon Dash was the voice, bold, loud, and unfiltered, a Harlem-born hustler who treated every room like a battlefield. Biggs Burke, by contrast, was the quiet architect. Reserved, thoughtful, and intensely private. He rarely sought the spotlight, but handled the money and logistics that kept Rocafella alive. While Dame fought in public and Jay created in the studio, Biggs worked behind the scenes, balancing the chaos with calm calculation. They didn't have corporate backing, offices, or investors. What they had was grit, street logic, and belief. The trio pooled their money, profits from small hustles and independent ventures, and used it to fund Jay's debut album. Biggs' discipline played a crucial role in those early days. He was the numbers man, watching budgets, keeping spending tight, and ensuring every dollar went back into growth. His low-key nature often made people overlook him, but within the rock circle, everyone knew Biggs was the one who made sure the dream stayed funded. Damon Dash famously sold clothes and borrowed money to get things moving. Jay contributed his own savings from the street days. Together, they scraped together what they needed to press and distribute the records themselves. When traditional labels wouldn't sign Jay, they self-released. That was a radical move in 1995, a time when independent hip-hop still meant selling tapes out of car trunks and word-of-mouth marketing. Damon and Jay literally took the Rocafella brand to the streets. They printed CDs, handed them to DJs, sold them out of cars, and built grassroots following. This wasn't just music, it was entrepreneurship before the culture had a word for it. Rocafella Records became a symbol of independence and ownership. The name itself, inspired by the wealthy Rockefeller family, was more than clever wordplay. It was a declaration. It said, "We're not just rappers, we're businessmen." Jay once explained, "We wanted something that represented aspiration." The Rock was about luxury, ambition, wealth, everything we didn't have, but were determined to reach. They built their brand with a mix of street smarts and corporate swagger. Damon Dash handled marketing like a general at war, bold, loud, and fearless. He organized parties, pushed the Rock symbol everywhere, and made sure people knew their name even before they heard the music. Biggs made sure the finances ran tight, managing every dollar as if the company's life depended on it, because it did. Unlike Dame, Biggs avoided cameras and interviews, preferring to let the results speak. He handled deals quietly, built trust among distributors, and became the glue that kept Jay and Dame's fiery partnership from falling apart. His calm nature balanced out Dame's aggression, and together, their contrasts became Rockefeller's strength. The team's hustle paid off when they secured a distribution deal with Priority Records, allowing Rockefeller to reach wider audiences while keeping control of their masters. That ownership was key. Jay-Z retained rights to his music, something few artists at the time could claim. Their first official release under the Rockefeller name would be Reasonable Doubt in 1996, a project that reflected every lesson Jay had learned from the streets, the rejections, and the grind. But even before the album dropped, the Rock brand had become something powerful. The diamond-shaped hand gesture, the Rock sign, became an emblem of pride and identity in hip-hop culture. The rise of Rockefeller marked the beginning of a new era, one where artists could own their music, build their companies, and control their narrative. It wasn't just about Jay-Z's music. It was about proving a point. That black entrepreneurs could build empires from nothing, with no corporate cosign. The early days weren't glamorous. The team operated out of small offices, fought distributors for shelf space, and hustled to get radio play. Damon Dash often said he would walk into label offices and demand respect for Jay's talent, not as a favor, but as a right. That attitude, sometimes abrasive, was exactly what made Rockefeller impossible to ignore. Every CD sold was a statement of independence. Every fan gained was a step toward legitimacy. They were bridging two worlds, the street hustle and the corporate hustle, using the same determination that once fueled Jay's survival in the projects. The Rockefeller story wasn't born from luxury, it was built from necessity. While other artists waited to be signed, Jay-Z and his team were too busy signing themselves. That decision, to take control instead of waiting for validation, would become the single most important move of Jay-Z's career. And while Jay became the face of the movement, both Dame and Biggs were its backbone. Without Dame's relentless drive and Biggs' steady hand, Rockefeller might have remained just an idea scribbled on a notepad. Their chemistry, ambition, discipline, and vision turned a street dream into a business empire. The empire had just found its foundation, and its message was clear. If the industry won't give you a seat at the table, build your own table and make it marble. Reasonable Doubt, the first statement. By 1996, Jay-Z wasn't just rapping anymore, he was making a statement. After years of rejection, hustling tapes out of car trunks and fighting for a voice, he finally had his moment. His debut album, Reasonable Doubt, wasn't just a collection of songs, It was the autobiography of a hustler turned philosopher, written in rhyme, polished in pain, recorded on a shoestring budget but with diamond-sharp precision. Reasonable Doubt became the first official release under Rocafella Records, and it captured everything Jay-Z stood for: intelligence, ambition, and control. Unlike the flashy gangster rap dominating the mid-1990s, Jay's sound was smooth, elegant, and calculated. His delivery was calm, not because he lacked energy, but because he'd already lived what he was rapping about. From the opening track, Can't Knock the Hustle, featuring Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z set the tone. This wasn't glorification, it was reflection. He painted vivid pictures of the grind, the paranoia, and the hunger of street life, but also the longing for legitimacy. Lines like, "We hustle out of a sense of hopelessness," hit differently. He wasn't flexing, he was explaining. Jay's lyricism stood out. He didn't rap like someone trying to impress. He rapped like someone telling you how the world really works. Each bar felt like a business lesson disguised as poetry. Songs like Devils explored the moral cost of chasing money. Feelin' It captured the tension between success and guilt. And then there was Dead Presidents 2, a lyrical masterpiece where Jay declared his obsession with ambition through the line, "I'm out for presidents to represent me." Even the album's title carried meaning. Reasonable Doubt wasn't random, it was courtroom language. To Jay, life was a trial, and he was the defendant. Every track was his testimony, defending the choices he'd made to survive and thrive. But while the album was critically praised, it wasn't an instant commercial hit. Upon its release on June 25, 1996, Reasonable Doubt debuted at number 1. 23 on the Billboard 200, selling around 43,000 copies in its first week. Not bad for an independent label with no radio push, but not the blockbuster numbers Jay hoped for. Still, the long game was already in motion. The album slowly built momentum through word of mouth, respected DJs, and loyal fans who recognized its depth. Critics called it one of the most sophisticated rap albums of the decade. The Source magazine gave it 4 mics out of 5, and reviewers highlighted Jay's lyricism, flow, and storytelling as a fresh alternative to the brashness of mainstream rap. Jay-Z didn't seem too concerned about initial sales. What mattered to him was control. He owned his masters, he controlled his image, and he had set the tone for what Rocafella would stand for. In his own words, Reasonable Doubt wasn't designed for radio, it was designed for respect. By the end of the year, the album had sold over 400,000 copies, a remarkable feat for an independent release. In the years that followed, it would go platinum, as hip-hop fans and critics alike came to view it as one of the most important debut albums ever made. Can't Knock the Hustle, the opening track, became more than a song. It became his mission statement. The title itself summed up Jay's worldview. You might not agree with how he came up, but you couldn't deny the grind. He had built something from nothing, and that deserved acknowledgement. Beyond the music, Reasonable Doubt marked the start of Jay-Z's business identity. The album's production featured a mix of rising and established talents, DJ Premier, Clark Kent, and Ski Beats, proving Jay knew how to assemble the right team. He wasn't just rapping over beats, he was curating an experience, the way an executive builds a brand. Every verse felt intentional, every detail strategic. Even the suits and cigars in his album photos were calculated, a deliberate contrast to the streetwear look dominating the rap scene. Jay wanted to position himself as something different, a man who moved like a hustler but thought like a CEO. What Reasonable Doubt did was set the foundation not only for his music career, but for his philosophy of ownership and authenticity. It taught him that integrity pays longer than hype, and that real success doesn't always come with overnight fame. Years later, Jay would look back and call Reasonable Doubt his favorite album, not just for its music, but for what it represented. The first proof that he could build something independent, powerful, and lasting. It was the blueprint before the blueprint, the moment when the street hustler began transforming into the corporate maverick he was destined to become. And while the mainstream might have been slow to catch up, those who listened closely already knew this wasn't just another rapper trying to make it. This was a man quietly building an empire, verse by verse. From underdog to superstar. By the late 1990s, Jay-Z's name was no longer just known in Brooklyn, it was echoing across the globe. His 1998 album, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, marked a turning point, transforming him from a respected underground rapper into a full-fledged superstar. At the center of this transformation was one track, Hard Knock Life, Ghetto Anthem. Sampling the chorus from the Broadway musical Annie, Jay turned an unlikely melody into an anthem for resilience, ambition, and survival. The song captured both the grit of his past and the shine of his success, bridging worlds that rarely met. The album went on to sell over 5 million copies, earning Jay his first taste of mainstream dominance. Suddenly, the independent hustler who once sold CDs from his car was sitting at the top of the charts and on his way to becoming a cultural icon. Critical acclaim followed, with Volume 2, Hard Knock Life winning Best Rap Album at the Grammys, solidifying Jay-Z's arrival in hip-hop's elite class. Yet, even as fame grew, Jay carefully maintained his image as the streetwise businessman, smart, strategic, and grounded. He had cracked the code. Success didn't have to mean selling out. Instead, Jay-Z mastered the balance, blending raw street storytelling with mass-market appeal. This was the era where the blueprint for his empire began taking shape, showing the world that a rapper could be both real and rich. The Dynasty, Rocafella's golden era. As the new millennium dawned, Jay-Z was no longer just a rapper, he was building an empire. With the Blueprint in 2001 and the Black Album in 2003, Jay defined an era, shaping not just the sound of hip-hop but the culture surrounding it. The Blueprint became a cornerstone of modern rap, featuring lush, soulful production from rising talents like Kanye West and Just Blaze. These collaborations marked the birth of a new sound, smoother, emotional, and deeply introspective. Jay's lyricism hit its peak, balancing sharp wordplay with vulnerability, turning tracks like Song Cry and Izzo HOVA into cultural moments. As his music evolved, so did his influence. Producers like Pharrell Williams and Timbaland joined forces with Jay, creating hits that reached far beyond hip-hop audiences. His tours drew massive crowds worldwide, and Rocafella became synonymous with luxury, hustle, and aspiration. During this era, Rocafella Records wasn't just a label, it was a lifestyle brand. From music to streetwear, Jay-Z and his partners had built a self-sustaining empire. Rockaware, the label's fashion line, dominated urban culture, while their artists filled charts and stages globally. Yet behind the flash and success, the energy inside Rocafella was shifting. Damon Dash's leadership style, loud, fearless, and drenched in Harlem bravado, often meant throwing extravagant parties, publicly calling out industry rivals, and running meetings with the same edge he used to sell records. Jay-Z, meanwhile, was evolving into something different. He'd begun moving in corporate circles, taking notes on how executives operated, clean suits, quiet deals, and strategic partnerships. He wanted longevity, not just domination. Biggs Burke often found himself caught between the two. He was the quiet stabilizer, the one who focused on logistics, tour operations, and artist development while trying to ease the growing friction. When Dame's explosive energy collided with Jay's new diplomacy, Biggs played mediator, reminding both men that Rocafella's power came from unity. But beneath the glittering surface, fault lines were forming. Jay wanted to move Rocafella toward a more corporate, streamlined future, aligning with major distributors, focusing on branding and building partnerships that would cement their legacy. Dame, on the other hand, saw that as selling out. He believed in street power, in keeping control, moving loudly, and forcing respect through dominance, not negotiation. Their personalities, once complementary, began to collide. Biggs tried to hold the middle ground, emphasizing business discipline over ego, but even he could sense the shift. The tension between Jay's corporate calm and Dame's street aggression wasn't just personal, it represented a changing era. Hip-hop itself was maturing, evolving from hustle energy into boardroom power, and Jay was already preparing to lead that transition. This golden era, while marked by triumph, hinted at a coming storm, one that would test Jay-Z's loyalty, leadership, and long-term strategy for independence. Crossing lines, legal troubles, and industry conflicts. By the late 90s, Jay-Z was standing at the pinnacle of hip-hop success, but that height came with shadows. The more fame he earned, the more pressure built around him, and the line between the streets and the studio started to blur. Jay was no longer just a hustler turned rapper, he was a businessman navigating the chaos of fame, loyalty, and legacy. But the ghosts of his past weren't done testing him. In 1999, just as his career was hitting full stride, Jay found himself at the center of a scandal that nearly derailed everything. During a party celebrating Q-Tip's album release at Manhattan's Kit Kat Club, Jay-Z allegedly stabbed record executive Lance Rivera, a figure rumored to have leaked Jay's upcoming album Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter. The streets buzzed with gossip. How could one of rap's sharpest businessmen lose control like that? Jay was arrested and charged with assault. For months, tabloids painted him as both violent and volatile, a contradiction to his polished image as a mogul in the making. The case dragged on until 2001, when Jay eventually pleaded guilty to third-degree assault and received 3 years probation. The incident left a permanent mark, both on his reputation and on his mindset. But what could have destroyed him instead became a turning point. Jay learned a brutal truth. Fame magnifies every misstep. Every action now had consequences, not just for him, but for the entire Rocafella brand. He began to move differently, more calculated, more composed, and more aware that perception was as powerful as reality. Still, even as he battled legal troubles, Jay found himself entangled in another war, one fought not with weapons, but with words. The feud with Nas became one of the most legendary rivalries in hip-hop history. What started as subtle jabs turned into a full-scale lyrical war that split the rap world in two. When Jay dropped Takeover on the Blueprint, he came swinging with surgical precision. He dissected Nas's career, calling him inconsistent and irrelevant. Nas fired back with Ether, a scorching diss that hit like a grenade, raw, emotional, and vicious. Fans debated endlessly over who won, but one thing was undeniable. Both men elevated each other. The feud became a cultural event, defining early 2000s hip-hop and pushing lyricism to new heights. And Jay wasn't only clashing with Nas. His competitive streak extended to prodigy of Mobb Deep, another Queensbridge legend. Jay publicly embarrassed Prodigy by displaying childhood photos of him at Summer Jam, mocking his credibility. The move was ruthless, even for hip-hop's battle culture, proof that Jay understood how spectacle could amplify dominance. Yet behind the bravado, Jay was evolving. These conflicts, legal and lyrical alike, were shaping his understanding of power, not just artistic power, but corporate power. He realized that influence came not from rage or retaliation, but from control. The ability to command a narrative was worth more than any victory on wax. Decades later, that lesson would be tested again. In late 2024, Jay-Z's name resurfaced in headlines when a Jane Doe filed a civil suit accusing him of rape, an allegation dating back decades. The media storm was instant, reigniting old debates about fame, power, and accountability in hip-hop. But unlike the chaos of his past, Jay handled this one differently. Calm, quiet, and strategic. The case moved swiftly through the courts, and by early 2025, Jay-Z was cleared, the accusations dismissed. What could have been another career-defining scandal became a testament to how much he'd evolved. The man once known for reacting now responded with precision, showing that control wasn't just an image, it was his greatest defense. The media loved to portray him as both villain and visionary. The street kid who made it but couldn't outrun his past. The mogul who used music as a chessboard. But Jay, always the strategist, began to use that duality to his advantage. He understood that controversy kept him in headlines, and headlines kept him relevant. His mistakes became lessons, and his feuds became part of his mythology. In interviews years later, Jay would reflect on that time as the period when he truly learned to separate Sean Carter from Jay-Z. Sean had grown up fighting to survive. Jay-Z had to learn how to lead, how to protect a brand, and how to move like a CEO. Every headline, every diss track, every courtroom appearance taught him something about restraint, about reputation, and about the cost of being at the top. It was the age of transformation through turmoil. The world saw chaos, but Jay saw clarity. The man who once sold CDs out of his car trunk was now learning to sell himself, not as a rapper, but as a brand that could withstand scandal, survive conflict, and still emerge more powerful than before. This was Jay-Z at a crossroads, the hustler, the artist, and the mogul all colliding, and from that collision, a sharper, colder, and wiser Jay-Z was born, one who finally understood that the real game wasn't played in the streets or the studio anymore. It was played in the boardroom. The Mogul Mindset, rock-aware, and the power of branding. By the turn of the millennium, Jay-Z wasn't just rapping about success, he was designing it. While the world debated who ruled hip-hop lyrically, Jay quietly shifted his attention to something far more lasting than a chart position: ownership.
So let me ask you guys, you own your own. Yeah. That's unlike most rappers in this game. What motivated you to own your own?
Well, I've been in this game, for a minute. My man Jazz, again, he introduced me to this game. He showed me a lot of different things, and I knew what I didn't want. I knew what I wanted. I wanted full control over my music, you know what I mean?
In 1999, alongside Damon Dash, he co-founded Rockaware, a streetwear brand that would become a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just clothing, it was identity. It was born from the streets, made for the people who lived and breathed hip-hop, but also built to cross over into the mainstream. At a time when luxury fashion brands largely ignored black culture, Jay and Dash saw a gap, and they filled it with attitude, authenticity, and ambition. The concept was simple, but brilliant. Rockaware wasn't about high fashion, it was about high influence. The brand spoke directly to the kids who saw themselves in Jay's lyrics, those who came from nothing but dreamed of everything. The designs fused street style with urban luxury, bold logos, fitted caps, velour tracksuits, and clean denim. It was wearable proof that hip-hop had its own economy. Jay wasn't new to selling, he'd been doing it his whole life. But this time, he wasn't pushing products from a corner. He was pushing a lifestyle. His lessons from the street, negotiation, marketing, risk assessment, translated seamlessly into business. He understood supply and demand, he knew how to control perception, and he knew that storytelling sold just as much as stitching. Within its first few years, Rockaware became one of the most successful urban fashion labels in America. By the early 2000s, the brand was reportedly generating over $700 million annually in retail sales, rivaling established companies that had been in the market for decades. Rock-aware ads appeared in magazines, on billboards, and even in music videos, with Jay-Z himself serving as both model and mogul. He made the clothes cool by living in them. Every time he appeared in public wearing rock-aware, it wasn't a marketing move, it was a cultural statement. He didn't need celebrity endorsements because he was the celebrity endorsement, and as hip-hop grew into a global force, rock-aware became its unofficial uniform. But Jay was never content with short-term wins. He saw something deeper, branding as a form of ownership. He once said, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a business man." That wasn't just a clever line, it was the foundation of his empire. Rock-aware showed him that the true power wasn't in performing for someone else's brand, but in building your own and making the culture itself profitable. But Jay's influence didn't stop with clothes. In 2003, he took another unexpected leap into sneakers. Partnering with Reebok, he launched the S. Carter collection, becoming the first non-athlete ever to have a signature shoe with a major sportswear brand. The sneakers sold out nationwide within hours of release, proving that Jay-Z's name could move culture as powerfully as any basketball legend. The deal wasn't just about footwear, it marked a cultural shift the moment hip-hop officially entered the sportswear economy. Through the S. Carter line, Jay-Z showed that his reach extended beyond music and fashion. He could compete with Nike's icons without ever stepping on a court. It was another quiet revolution in how influence could be monetized. Around the same time, Jay-Z teamed up with longtime friend and marketing visionary Steve Stout to form Translation, a branding agency built on one idea: culture is the most powerful form of currency. Translation became a bridge between corporate America and the hip-hop generation, translating authenticity into strategy for brands like State Farm, Sprite, and McDonald's. Through this partnership, Jay and Stout redefined what influence looked like in the 21st century. It wasn't just about selling, it was about storytelling, connecting brands to the pulse of the streets. This move signaled Jay's transition into a new kind of mogul, one who didn't just sell culture, but helped corporations understand it. Still, as the company grew, internal tensions between Jay-Z and Damon Dash began to surface again. Dash, known for his aggressive style, wanted to expand rapidly, launching women's lines, kids' lines, and international collections. Jay, on the other hand, favored controlled growth and long-term sustainability. The two partners had built an empire together, but their visions were starting to diverge. In 2007, Jay made a major move that solidified his reputation as a sharp businessman. He sold Rockaware to Iconic's brand group for $204 million, one of the most significant deals in urban fashion history. But the real genius wasn't in the sale price, it was in the deal structure. Jay negotiated to retain ownership of Rockaware's marketing, licensing, and creative control, ensuring that even after the sale, his name and influence remained tied to the brand. That deal proved Jay-Z wasn't just a rapper dabbling in business. He was a mogul who understood equity, scalability, and leverage. He turned cultural relevance into corporate value. Rockaware had started as an experiment in streetwear and ended up a billion-dollar brand blueprint that inspired countless artists to follow in his footsteps. Beyond money, Rockaware represented something much bigger: hip-hop's arrival in the mainstream economy. It shattered the stereotype that rappers could only sell records. Now, they could sell brands, ideas, and lifestyles. Jay-Z showed that the same creativity used to write rhymes could build corporations. Rockaware also taught him a valuable lesson about scalability and licensing, how to multiply value without multiplying effort. By leveraging brand identity across products and markets, Jay learned how to make money in his sleep, through royalties, partnerships, and long-term contracts. It was a new kind of hustle, one that didn't rely on the mic, but on mindset. This chapter in Jay's life marked his evolution from artist to architect. The boy who once hustled on Marcy's corners now hustled in boardrooms, negotiating with investors instead of dealers. Rockaware wasn't just a fashion line, it was the proof of concept for everything that came next. Rocnation, Tidal, Doucet, Armand de Brignac, and beyond. Jay-Z had cracked the code. The real flex wasn't in flaunting wealth, it was in building systems that created it. Rockaware wasn't the end of his story, it was the foundation of a new one, the moment when Sean Carter, the kid from the projects, became Jay-Z, the brand. Boardroom hustle, Def Jam, Rocnation, and music ownership. By the mid-2000s, Jay-Z was no longer just navigating the rap game, he was running it from the top floor. After years of building Rocafella and turning street dreams into boardroom realities, Jay took a position that many doubted he'd ever want. President and CEO of Def Jam Recordings, one of the most iconic labels in music history. In 2004, Def Jam was facing stagnation. Once the powerhouse behind LL Cool J, Public Enemy, and DMX, it was losing its edge in a rapidly changing industry. Jay saw an opportunity, not just to make history, but to reshape it. When he took the job, the message was clear. The kid from the Marcy Projects was now calling shots at one of the most powerful record labels in America. His tenure as president, 2004 to 2007, was bold, sometimes controversial, but undeniably influential. Jay focused on artist empowerment and long-term brand building rather than quick hits. Under his leadership, Def Jam signed Rihanna, Ne-Yo, and Rick Ross, artists who would each become major forces in the 2000s. Rihanna, in particular, was a defining moment. Jay personally championed her after hearing her demo and signed her to Def Jam the same day she auditioned. That single decision helped launch one of the biggest pop stars of the 21st century. Likewise, Ne-Yo brought a fresh wave of R&B success, while Rick Ross embodied the new face of luxury rap that Jay himself had pioneered. But being an executive wasn't easy. Inside the corporate walls, Jay faced the same power struggles and politics he'd once escaped in the streets. Artists complained about delayed projects, executives resisted his unconventional strategies, and the pressure to deliver profits mounted. Jay later admitted that being a label president felt like trying to turn a ship in a bathtub. Too slow, too restricted, too many hands on the wheel. By 2007, Jay-Z stepped down, but he didn't retreat, he evolved. He realized that real power didn't come from sitting in someone else's chair, it came from building your own table. After leaving Def Jam, Jay experimented with several independent projects, including a short-lived record label venture that never reached Rocafella's legendary success. It was a humbling reminder that not every move hits, but those lessons shaped how he approached Rocnation later, learning that structure, partnerships, and vision mattered just as much as branding. Even his missteps became part of the blueprint, showing that failure wasn't a setback, just research for the next win. In 2008, Jay founded Rocnation, a full-service entertainment company that blurred the lines between label, management, and lifestyle brand. Rocnation wasn't just about signing artists, it was about building empires around them. It handled everything: music, publishing, touring, branding, and marketing. Jay's vision was simple: artists shouldn't just work for companies, they should own their careers. With Rocnation, Jay positioned himself at the intersection of art and entrepreneurship. Early signees included J. Cole, Rita Ora, and later DJ Khaled, Meek Mill, and Rhapsody. Each represented a different sound, but all shared the same ethos: ownership, authenticity, and creative control. Roc Nation quickly became a hub for artist independence, mirroring the principles Jay had lived by since the Rocafella days. But Jay didn't stop at music. In 2013, he expanded his empire into sports with Rocnation Sports, partnering with CAA, Creative Artists Agency, to represent athletes in basketball, baseball, football, and beyond. Once again, Jay applied the same street-to-boardroom logic. If rappers could own their masters, why couldn't athletes control their careers? Rocnation Sports signed some of the biggest names in the game: Kevin Durant, Robinson Cano, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and Saquon Barkley among them. Within just a few years, the agency was negotiating hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts, bringing in significant revenue and credibility to Jay's growing business portfolio. This move made headlines not only for its financial implications, but for what it symbolized: a cultural power shift. A rapper from Brooklyn was now managing superstars and negotiating deals in the same circles as corporate titans. Jay had effectively rewritten the playbook on how far hip-hop influence could reach. Beyond business, this period marked Jay's personal evolution from performer to executive visionary. He began performing less and strategizing more, carefully curating his brand and influence. His understanding of equity and ownership deepened. From master recordings to merchandise to publishing rights, Jay was ensuring that every venture he touched had long-term value. He once said, "I'm not into getting money just to get money. I'm into growth, legacy, and ownership." That philosophy defined this phase of his career. While others were chasing fame, Jay was designing infrastructure, systems that would outlast the trends and the noise. By the end of the 2010s, Roc Nation had expanded into film, television, and social justice initiatives. It wasn't just a company, it was a movement, representing the new era of Black excellence and entrepreneurial independence. What began as a hustler's instinct had now become a boardroom doctrine. Jay-Z wasn't just playing the corporate game, he was rewriting it. From Def Jam's executive suite to Roc Nation's global reach, he proved that real power wasn't about how loud your voice was, but about who controls the microphone. And with every deal, every signature, and every headline, Jay-Z wasn't just representing himself. He was representing an entire generation that had been told they didn't belong in the boardroom. The new economy, title, and digital power. By 2015, Jay-Z had already conquered the streets, the stage, and the boardroom. But there was one frontier left to master: the digital world. Streaming was changing the music industry forever, and Jay knew that if artists didn't take control of the new economy, tech companies would. So he made his boldest move yet. He stepped into Silicon Valley's arena.
Forget the sound, because that's just a part of it. Is if you think of streaming, it's the next thing. There was vinyl, then it was tape, and there was downloads, and now it's streaming. That's just the net.
That year, Jay acquired the Scandinavian streaming service Tidal for $56 million through his company, Project Panther Bidco. On paper, it looked like a risky buy. Spotify and Apple Music were already dominating the market, and the streaming wars were fierce. But Jay wasn't buying a product, he was buying leverage. Tidal wasn't just another streaming app. Jay positioned it as an artist-owned platform, a direct rebellion against an industry that had long underpaid and undervalued creators. In his words, "We're not here to compete with Spotify. We're here to change the game." He gathered a coalition of the world's biggest artists: Beyoncé, Kanye West, Rihanna, Madonna, Nicki Minaj, Daft Punk, Alicia Keys, and more, each becoming part owner in the company. When they announced Tidal's relaunch, it felt like a cultural revolution. The stage was filled with superstars, united not by a label, but by ownership. Tidal's pitch was simple but radical: higher quality sound, exclusive releases, and most importantly, fair pay for artists. Jay envisioned a system where creators didn't just make music, they profited directly from it. And he wasn't wrong to see the problem. At the time, Spotify was paying artists fractions of a cent per stream. Jay wanted Tidal to be a platform built for musicians, by musicians. The move wasn't without its critics. Some accused Jay of being out of touch, calling Tidal a luxury service for the rich. Others mocked the rollout, saying it was tone deaf for wealthy artists to demand more money. But Jay held firm, reminding everyone that the fight wasn't about the top 1%, it was about ownership and autonomy for all creators. Tidal began rolling out exclusive content to draw users. Beyoncé's Lemonade premiered there first. Kanye's The Life of Pablo debuted exclusively on the platform, and Prince even chose Tidal as his digital home before his passing. Jay himself released 444 exclusively on Tidal in 2017, a deeply personal album that doubled as both confession and manifesto. It was streamed millions of times within days, proof that exclusivity could still drive cultural impact. Despite early challenges, Tidal started gaining respect within the music industry. It wasn't just a streaming service anymore. It was a symbol, a statement about who controls the means of distribution in the digital age. And then came the next evolution. In 2021, Jay-Z sold a majority stake in Tidal to Square, Inc., now Block, Inc., the fintech company led by Jack Dorsey, for approximately $297 million. The deal wasn't just about cash, it was about connection. Jay joined Block's board of directors, linking the worlds of music, finance, and technology in a way no artist had done before. He turned a $56 million acquisition into a nearly $300 million exit. But the numbers were only part of the story. What Jay had done was far more significant. He'd proven that hip-hop could play in the tech sandbox and still win. The partnership between Tidal and Block hinted at a larger vision, one that went beyond streaming. With Square's expertise in digital payments and financial tools, the collaboration aimed to empower artists with direct ways to monetize their work, from NFTs and blockchain royalties to independent distribution. It was about breaking free from middlemen once and for all. Tidal's journey wasn't perfect. It faced lawsuits, restructuring, and fierce competition, but its legacy was undeniable. It forced conversations that had been ignored for too long. How are artists paid? Who controls their data? Who owns the platforms that distribute their creativity? Jay's foray into streaming wasn't just another business move. It was an ideological statement. He understood that music, like money, was moving into a new digital economy, and that the next generation of artists couldn't afford to just be passengers. Through Tidal, Jay-Z showed that control and creativity could coexist in the modern world. He transformed from rapper to tech investor, from label boss to platform builder, proving once again that ownership is the ultimate power. When the dust settled, Tidal wasn't remembered for beating Spotify, it was remembered for changing the conversation. It made artists think bigger, made executives rethink their models, and made fans realize that behind every stream was a system, and behind every system, someone held the keys. And Jay-Z, he wasn't just in the room anymore, he helped design the system itself. Liquid gold, champagne, cognac, and luxury investments. By the 2010s, Jay-Z wasn't just a businessman, he was a brand architect. Every move he made was strategic, every partnership designed to turn influence into equity. And perhaps nowhere was this more apparent than in his venture into the luxury liquor industry, where he transformed champagne and cognac into modern-day emblems of success.
Whatever we building luxury products, and Moet Hennessy goes about it the same way. So we are aligned in our thoughts of integrity and passion for the things that we build.
It all began with Armand de Brignac, better known as Ace of Spades, the champagne with the metallic bottles and Ace logo that became synonymous with opulence. Its connection to Jay-Z began around 2006 after a very public fallout with Cristal Champagne. In an interview that year, Cristal's managing director made dismissive comments about hip-hop artists and their association with the brand. To many, it sounded like coded racism. Jay didn't take it lightly. He immediately boycotted Cristal, removing it from his clubs and music videos, and in a bold move, threw his support behind a little-known French champagne, Armand de Brignac. At first, Ace of Spades was simply an alternative, but through Jay's endorsement, it became a cultural phenomenon. When he appeared in the video for Show Me What You Got, 2006, holding the gold bottle, sales exploded overnight. What had once been a niche luxury became a global status symbol wrapped in the power of hip-hop's influence. Behind the scenes, Jay wasn't just endorsing it, he eventually acquired the brand from its parent company, Sovereign Brands, in 2014. Now he didn't just drink it, he owned it. Under his leadership, Armand de Brignac grew into one of the most recognizable champagnes in the world. Its lineup, the Gold Brut Gold, the Pink Rosé, and the Platinum Blanc de Blanc, graced elite parties, award shows, and VIP lounges everywhere. The brand's image blended old-world luxury with modern swagger. No ads were needed. Every time Jay-Z or Beyoncé popped a bottle, it was the marketing. By 2021, Armand de Brignac had reached new heights. Jay announced a partnership with LVMH Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton, the world's largest luxury conglomerate. The deal saw LVMH acquire a 50% stake in Armand de Brignac at a valuation estimated around $640 million. For Jay, this was more than a payday, it was validation. The kid from Marcy Projects had become business partners with the most prestigious name in luxury. It wasn't just about champagne, it was about changing who had a seat at the table. He said it best in an interview: "We want to share not only in the success of our brands, but also in the story of their creation. We're building something that lasts." With LVMH's global reach and Jay's cultural power, Ace of Spades became the bridge between exclusivity and accessibility, proof that luxury could be redefined through authenticity. But Jay didn't stop at champagne. He also ventured into cognac, another symbol of sophistication deeply tied to hip-hop culture. In partnership with Bacardi, Jay co-owned Douce Cognac, which launched in 2012. Sleek, bold, and refined, Douce was crafted at the Château de Cognac in France, blending centuries of tradition with Jay's modern taste for style and power. While many celebrities were lending their names to liquor brands, Jay did what he always did. He took ownership. As Douce gained traction, becoming a staple in clubs, rap lyrics, and award shows, it was clear Jay had turned spirits into storytelling. Each bottle wasn't just a drink, it was a declaration of independence and taste. But the real drama came years later. In 2022, Jay-Z entered a heated legal dispute with Bacardi over the valuation of Douce. Reports surfaced that Jay's company, SC Liquor, believed Bacardi was undervaluing the brand to buy out his stake cheaply. The battle grew public, a billionaire chess match between two titans of industry. Jay's team argued that Douce was worth over $3 billion, while Bacardi reportedly valued it at far less. For months, legal filings and negotiations filled headlines, but in the end, Jay once again came out on top. In 2023, Bacardi reached a deal to buy Jay-Z's majority stake in Douce in a transaction reportedly valued at over $750 million. Jay retained a minority ownership stake, ensuring he still had a seat at the table, just as he had done with Armand de Brignac. These weren't just liquor deals, they were cultural power moves. Jay-Z had taken industries once reserved for European elites and infused them with hip-hop's authenticity and influence. He didn't chase luxury. He redefined it. What makes Jay's ventures into champagne and cognac so revolutionary isn't just the money, though the numbers are staggering. It's the message. He turned what was once a symbol of exclusion into a celebration of empowerment. Through Armand de Brignac and Doucet, Jay showed that black ownership could exist not just in music or fashion, but in global luxury markets, and thrive there. To this day, both brands remain integral parts of Jay-Z's identity. Ace of Spades represents the celebration, the victory toast after years of struggle. Doucet embodies the grind, the long nights, the strategy, the precision. Together, they reflect the duality of Jay himself, the hustler and the mogul, the visionary and the businessman. By turning luxury liquor into cultural currency, Jay-Z once again proved that his greatest asset was never his wealth. It was his vision. A vision that started on the corners of Brooklyn and ended in the halls of global luxury. And in every glass of Ace or Doucet raised around the world, there's a piece of that story. A reminder that for Jay-Z, success has always been more than money. It's legacy poured in gold. Love, family, and legacy. Behind every empire lies what keeps it grounded. For Jay-Z, that foundation wasn't just business, it was family. His partnership with Beyoncé became one of the most influential unions in modern culture, merging art, power, and public expectation. They met in the early 2000s when Beyoncé was transitioning from Destiny's Child and Jay was already a dominant force in hip-hop. Their collaborations, from 2003 Bonnie and Clyde to Crazy in Love, blurred the line between music and reality, turning their chemistry into a cultural phenomenon. In 2008, they quietly married, choosing privacy over spectacle. But fame doesn't allow silence for long. As their influence grew, so did the pressure. Every lyric, every public appearance became part of a larger story, one that mixed art with truth. Over the years, their love story unfolded not through interviews or gossip, but through music. From Drunken Love to Part 2, On the Run, they created songs that revealed glimpses of their partnership, both the highs and the heartbreaks. When Beyoncé released Lemonade in 2016, the world saw the cracks behind the perfection. Themes of betrayal and pain exposed the weight of love under the spotlight. Jay-Z later responded with 444, confronting his own failures and showing a rare vulnerability from a man once defined by control.
And, for us, we chose to fight for our love, for our family, to give our kids a different outcome. You see, to break that cycle. For black men and women, to see a different outcome.
Their reconciliation wasn't a fairy tale, it was a reckoning. Two artists using their platforms to process real emotion while protecting a shared legacy. Everything is Love, 2018, wasn't about romance. It was about resilience, growth, and surviving the cost of fame together. They represented a black couple standing in the halls of global art and history, rewriting the narrative of who belongs there. Jay and Beyoncé weren't just icons, they were symbols of ownership, resilience, and cultural pride. Outside music, their partnership expanded into business and activism. From Rocnation's social justice efforts to Bay Good's philanthropy, they built influence that reached beyond charts and headlines. Together, they symbolized ownership, evolution, and cultural power. For Jay-Z, fatherhood deepened that transformation. Raising Blue Ivy, Rumi, and Sir shifted his focus from accumulation to meaning. "You can't take it with you," he said. "You have to pass on the wisdom, not just the wealth." In the end, Jay-Z's story isn't about finding a perfect love. It's about learning balance. Between empire and emotion, power, and humility. The mogul who once rapped about survival now builds legacy through growth, reflection, and the people who keep him human. Billion-dollar blueprint, the empire in numbers. By 2019, Jay-Z had crossed a threshold no rapper before him had ever reached: hip-hop's first billionaire. What began on the corners of Brooklyn, hustling to survive, had evolved into an empire worth billions. But what makes this story remarkable isn't just the number, it's the blueprint behind it. Jay didn't stumble into wealth. He designed it layer by layer through ownership, vision, and relentless patience. When Forbes officially crowned Jay-Z a billionaire, they weren't just celebrating a financial milestone, they were documenting a cultural one. The kid who once couldn't get signed by a record label had out-earned nearly every label executive who turned him away. But how did he do it? The numbers tell the story. His music catalog, built over decades, forms the foundation, an estimated $100 million in publishing and master recordings, all retained under his control. Unlike most artists who gave away ownership early on, Jay made sure every verse, every track, every album remained his. That decision, made back in the Rocafella days, turned out to be one of the most profitable moves in modern music history. Then there's Rocnation, his all-encompassing entertainment and sports management company. With a valuation around $200 million, it stands as a global powerhouse, managing everyone from Rihanna to sports stars like Kevin De Bruyne and Saquon Barkley. It's not just a label, it's an ecosystem of music, sports, publishing, and film that reflects Jay's mantra: "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." His liquor ventures form another cornerstone of his fortune. His champagne brand, Armand de Brignac, Ace of Spades, skyrocketed in value after a 2021 partnership with LVMH Moet Hennessy, putting its valuation at nearly $640 million. Then there's Douce Cognac, co-owned with Bacardi, a brand that turned into a legal battlefield in 2022 to 2023 as Jay fought for fair valuation. The eventual settlement reportedly placed his earnings north of $750 million, proof that his business instincts were as sharp as his lyrics. But Jay-Z's vision extended far beyond music and liquor. He saw where the world was heading: tech and investments. He made a legendary early bet on Uber, reportedly buying a stake worth $2 million that ballooned to over $70 million. He co-founded Marcy Venture Partners in 2018, a Silicon Valley-style investment firm named after his old Brooklyn housing project. Through Marcy Ventures, Jay has invested in brands like Fanatics, Savage X Fenty, Therabody, and Impossible Foods, blending culture and commerce in a way few artists ever have. And then there's real estate, not just luxury living, but long-term strategy. Together with Beyoncé, he owns a portfolio that reads like a map of elite America. Their Tribeca penthouse in New York was one of Jay's earliest major purchases, symbolizing his escape from the streets to skyline living. Their Bel Air mansion, bought for around $88 million, is a 30,000 square foot fortress of glass, steel, and serenity, a home built like a statement, from Marcy projects to million-dollar views. Add to that their Hamptons Estates art collection, worth an estimated $70 million, including works by Basquiat. And you start to see the scale of what Jay calls generational wealth. In total, his 2025 estimated net worth floats between $2.5 and $2.7 billion, cementing his place among the world's elite, not just as a rapper, but as a financial architect. Yet what separates Jay from most billionaires is his mindset. He's never been one to flaunt blindly. His wealth is strategic, built on patience, ownership, and diversification. When others chased trends, Jay built infrastructure, When artists signed away rights, he created his own platforms. Every venture, from Rockaware to Tidal, from Ace of Spades to Rocnation, reflects one guiding principle: control the product, control the profit. And perhaps most importantly, Jay-Z understood something that the business world often forgets. Culture is capital. He didn't just sell champagne or music. He sold identity, aspiration, and authenticity. He turned hip-hop from rebellion into a boardroom language. Looking at the empire now, the numbers, the assets, the influence, it's clear Jay-Z didn't just make money. He changed the meaning of success. He proved that a kid from Brooklyn's toughest blocks could rewrite the financial playbook, one smart move at a time. In a world where most artists dream of fame, Jay-Z dreamed of freedom, financial, creative, and generational. And by building that freedom brick by brick, he left behind more than just wealth. He left a blueprint for every dreamer who refuses to play by the rules they were given. Legacy of a hustler, influence, culture, and the future. By 2025, Jay-Z isn't just a name, he's a philosophy. His journey from the Marcy Projects to billionaire boardrooms has become the ultimate blueprint for ambition, ownership, and reinvention. What began as a survival story in Brooklyn turned into a global case study on how to turn culture into capital and how to never forget where you came from while doing it. Jay-Z reshaped hip-hop's entire business model. Before him, most artists chased record deals. After him, they chased equity. He showed that ownership was the real prize, not just being the face of a brand, but owning a piece of it. Artists like Rihanna, Dr. Dre, Diddy, and even newcomers like Travis Scott and Tyler, the Creator, followed the same path, turning music into empires of fashion, beauty, and influence. His role as a mentor and connector became equally significant. He backed Rihanna early through Rocnation, helping her grow from a chart-topping pop star to a billionaire mogul through Fenty Beauty. He stood behind Meek Mill during his legal battles, becoming one of the leading voices pushing for criminal justice reform. He uplifted artists like DJ Khaled and J. Cole, not just through collaborations, but by teaching them the value of independence and leverage. For Jay, mentorship isn't charity, it's legacy building, but his reach extended far beyond entertainment. Through the Sean Carter Foundation, Jay-Z and his mother Gloria have provided scholarships, college prep, and financial aid for underprivileged youth. What started as a small program to give back to the community that raised him evolved into a national initiative funding millions in student support. His philanthropy doesn't seek headlines, it builds bridges. Then came Reform Alliance, co-founded with Meek Mill, Michael Rubin, and others in 2019. The organization fights for criminal justice reform, focusing on probation and parole laws that unfairly target minorities. Reform has helped influence policy changes across multiple states, reducing incarceration rates and giving thousands a second chance. For a man once caught in the system's shadow, Jay now stands as one of its reformers. Yet perhaps Jay-Z's greatest legacy isn't his money or his ventures, it's his symbolism. He's the living proof that the street hustle and the corporate hustle share the same DNA, vision, risk, and resilience. When he walks into boardrooms with executives from LVMH or Square, he's not code switching. He's redefining what Black excellence looks like in spaces that were never built for it. He carries the Marcy Projects with him not as baggage, but as proof of what's possible. Jay's story also reframed Black wealth in America. He didn't just amass riches, he demonstrated that financial literacy, community investment, and cultural influence could coexist. He and Beyoncé became the ultimate power couple, not for the luxury, but for what their union represented. A legacy of ownership, pride, and purpose. Jay-Z stands as both a mogul and a mirror. He reflects what's achievable when ambition meets discipline and what the next generation can accomplish when they stop asking for permission. His life bridges two worlds, the corner and the conference room, and shows that the same hustle can thrive in both. And through it all, his words still echo louder than ever. I'm not a businessman, I'm a business man. What once sounded like a clever lyric now defines an entire generation. Artists, athletes, and entrepreneurs alike live by that mindset, that your name, your work, your story is your brand. You are your own economy. Jay-Z's legacy isn't carved in stone or written in contracts. It lives in motion in every dreamer who grew up with nothing and learned to turn struggle into strategy. From Sean Carter to Jay-Z, from Marcy to Manhattan, his life stands as proof that success isn't just about reaching the top, but about rewriting what the top even means. He turned the hustle into an art form, the street into a classroom, and hip-hop into a global business language. And as his empire continues to grow, one truth remains. Jay-Z didn't just change the game, he became the game itself. Our official Bricktales merchandise, including comfy t-shirts, hoodies, and hats, is waiting for you. Shop the collection now at www.bricktales.store.